Welcome, all of you. Thanks so much for being here. Today, in real time, is Friday, June 5th, and it is the full moon, almost precisely exact in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the archer, the centaur, the um, fire sign, and not to get overly technical, but specifically the mutable fire sign. And mutable means that the new flame has already been lit and then flared up to its peak and done its major wild burning, and then has come back down to those coals, that sustainable heat, that fire that could still flare up or go out at any time. So mutable means really changeable. And as most of you are aware, I'm sure, our fire energy in the world has been incredibly elevated. And it's an interesting alignment when the full moon, that peak energy, is also in a mutable sign, because this offers us this opportunity for temperance and change, to really like move out of that utterly passion driven place to a thoughtful yet very active place. In fact, the card that I drew today to go along with our class is, again, the cheetah. And the cheetah is the culmination of that fire energy, that solar action oriented energy. But instead of the solar power coming from outside, this solar power comes from inside the cheetah, gives us the opportunity to emanate the message, emanate the thought, emanate the perspective, the action, doing out into the world, shining on those around us. And again, not in that like deep, harsh, overly passionate way that can get us into trouble, but instead this very thoughtful and fire with potential, right? So perhaps these are things that we can think of throughout our practice. In the physical body, Sagittarius associates with the hips and the thighs, and the hips physically and emotionally tend to be where we bury a lot of things. Like that's where our pockets live in our pants, and that's where we kind of stuff some of our emotional experience. So I feel like all of the alignments right now are asking us to dig into those pockets, to pull out the lint, the leftovers, the residue of our own personal experience, look at it with a really thoughtful, honest, exacting eye, and then move on, move through, having no sense of denial, but having a sense of ownership, processing, and instead of like being pulled down by the weight of our past, using our past as an engine toward that shifting, moving worldview. Big things happening right now. How can we put that into our own bodies? The archer has that sense of having a goal, of aiming the arrow and letting it go to a specific point. But for today's practice, I have less of a particular pose that I want to reach and more of a sense of the hips. And so we're going to kind of move in a way that will evolve. And I've got some ideas, but there's so many hip accessing postures that we'll just kind of have to be with the moment and the authenticity of where our collective energy takes us. So all of that said, we're going to start standing. You will find yourself near the front of your mat with your feet hips width. I will turn toward you, allowing the toes to turn out slightly so that the knees are really in line with your hip joints. And then pointing mostly ahead, but when our knees point ahead, the feet might not. So being authentic there to your own body's shape and alignment. Bending the knees slightly, hinging a bit in the hips to take the weight way back into the heels. It's from those heels that we can find more stability. Pressing down gently through the ball of the big toe, lifting through the tail, gathering back through the belly instead of up with the pubic bone. Find your breath, move it into the rib cage. Keeping the navel center firm without clenching. Imagining the back of your heart getting just as tall as the front of your heart. Allowing the shoulder blades and the collarbones to be buoyant and not hanging down or pulling down onto the ribs. Give a little space. Find some length in the back neck, a gentle gathering of the vocal cords. Feel the roof of your mouth rise through the crown. Pressing down through the earth with your roots, rising up, expanding out with those upper levels. Be connected, be held between the gravity and the expanse. And then let your movements match your breath. Inhaling, arms out, palms face the sky. Reaching up, and then turning palms out, pressing out to the side walls, keeping the shoulders buoyant, the back neck tall, lifted tail. Feeling your wings spread out. Weight back into the heels, subtle hinge in the hip joints. Exhale, push down through the feet. Hug an imaginary block between your ankles. Feel your legs come to life. Again, reaching out and up. And out and down. One more, inhaling out and up. And out and down. From your Tadasana, your inhale takes hips way back, belly gathered, heart and hands straight out in front, back neck long, chair pose. Pull the shin bones back in space and sit the thigh bones down behind the heels. Gather back through the belly without tucking the tail. Imagine the tail rising even as the thighs descend. Forefoot is very light until you press actively, rooting through the big toe mound without leaning forward. Keep the shins pulling back. Press down with that big toe mound. Stay seated here. Inhale, reach the hands back. Exhale, reach them forward and up. Inhale, reach the arms back. Broad heart, gathered belly. Exhale, reach forward with the heart and back with the hips. Sit lower. Inhale, expand. And then exhale, sit deeper. Inhale, rise to the sky, standing. Exhale, hands to your heart. Pause here. Inhale, sit deep, hands back. Gather the belly, reach the arms up. Inhale, stand. Exhale, weight into the forefoot, hinge the hips, folding forward, belly to thighs. Let the spine hang heavy. The knees can be as bent as necessary. Softening the jaw, head heavy. Weight forward, forward, forward. Gather belly, release heart and crown and shoulders. Hands above knees. Push through the forefoot, lift halfway. Half forward fold, a very subtle squeeze in the sitting bones, even with a lift in the tail. Imagine a block between your ankles, hug it. Gather the front ribs up and in, but keep the crown reaching. Find your breath. Find the steadiness here. On your inhale, hands back, hips back, weight into the heels. Exhale, hands on thighs, press forward, half fold. Don't lock out the knees, keep the knees pushing into the hands. Inhale, sit back into the heels, chair pose. Exhale, light hands, light heels, half forward fold. One more, sit back. Exhale. Lengthen the heart, inhale. Exhale, fold in. Hinge the hips, then release the spine. Look left and right. Release the hands to the earth. If they reach, turn the palms up. Otherwise, let them hang. Gather your navel a little deeper. Release your ribs a little further. Soften your jaw. Hands above knees, lift halfway. Exhale, sit back into the heels. Belly goes onto the thighs, half chair. Hands forward, hips back. Inhale here. Exhale, lean into the forefoot. Lift the hips, drop the heart, folding in. Inhale, sit back into the heels. Half chair, keep the belly on the thighs. Exhale, fold forward, weight into the forefoot. Again, inhale, sit back. Exhale, fold forward. Release into the breath. Hands above knees, lift halfway, squeeze the sitting bones. Don't make just your mid-back do that. Use your hips, and then exhale, full chair. And then inhale, reach up standing. Don't press the pelvis forward, keep it back. And then exhale to the heart, pausing. Turn to a wide-legged stance on your mat, whichever direction that serves you best. Not super wide, heels are just wider than our shoulders. Inhale, reach out and up. Turn the heels in slightly. Feet are around 30, 35 degrees on the mat. And then exhale, sit into a squat. Not very low, taking weight back into the heels. That same hinge in the front of the hip, taking the weight back. Imagining that your hips literally sit back behind the heels instead of tucking under and going between them. Really want it back, pulling those shins back as we did in our chair pose. Notice the tendency to do a back bend with that. Can you pull your ribs in and keep above your pelvis as much as possible? These are opposing actions. It's gonna take some work to find that internal resistance and release. So as you do that, use your breath. Heels heavy. Imagine outer knees pulling toward your sacrum. Inner thighs lengthening away from the pubic bone. Let your arms come out. Sometimes this is goddess pose. Let your head and neck be soft. Feel the power of the base. Hugging heels gently toward the middle. Even as you open, you are supported. Be in the breath. Straighten the legs. Push through the ball of the foot to do that. Turn your left toes in toward the midline. Let your right toes turn toward the end of your mat. Your pelvis will come along for the ride slightly. You want your right knee to be aligned over the notch of your ankle, right? Not rolling in toward the midline, okay? The toes may turn a little wider than that notch, okay? Allow that to happen. Look at your back foot. Anchor through the outer heel and pinky edge side, then reroot through the big toe. Feel how that connects to your left outer hip. Allow that left outer hip to come forward underneath you. We're not tucking the tail, but think of the whole thigh bone moving forward. And then just gently spiral the heart toward the long edge of your mat. Pause there. Notice the sense of imbalance in the 2 feet. They have warring energy here. Can you press the ball of the big toe into the mat? Keep that anchor and move the energy to the pinky edge side and outer heel. And then imagine hugging the heels toward the midline underneath you. Notice what happens at the pelvis and the belly. Hands on your thighs, and then they reach straight up. Looking out over right hand. Inhale fully. Exhale, bending right knee, take the weight into the heel. Push with your back leg. Keep that thigh moving underneath you. Push with the right big toe, straighten the leg. Your heart stays directly over your pelvis. Exhale, bending knee, heel heavy. Inhale, press through the big toe mound, straight leg. One more, bending the knee. Stay there. Drop the left hand, turn the palm up. Turn right palm up. Inhale, reach for the sky while also dropping right hip crease so that your heart stays open to the side edge of your mat. Right knee pressing out over and down into the heel. Right side waist lifting, shoulder lifting, gaze turning back toward left foot. Imagine that left thigh continuing to push underneath you. Inhale, right the heart, warrior 2. Exhale, straighten the front knee. Inhale, reach the arms straight up. Exhale, hinge in that right hip. Reaching the hands out parallel to the earth. Right hand reaching forward over right ankle. Left hand reaching back over left ankle. Notice your left hip. Keep it hugging forward into the pelvis. Keep your heart spiraling open subtly. Belly gathered. Inhale. Exhale, drop right hand. Nothing else changes. Inhale, stack left hand over the center of your heart. It doesn't necessarily go straight up. Make it that line. The arrow's path directly from the center of your heart, like the center of your bow. Look down. Challenge your balance as you change your gaze. Look up. Look down. Hug your right sitting bone underneath you and back toward left heel. Press left thigh forward toward right thigh. Feel the connection underneath. On an inhale, stack the ribs by pushing left leg underneath you. Arms out and up. On that exhale, warrior 2. Dropping left hand, reach right hand up. Exalting the warrior inhale. Long exhale, all one movement. Straight front leg, hinge in the front hip, reach with the right heart and fingers. That becomes triangle. Keep left hip and thigh active. Inhale, stack. Exhale, bend knee, heel heavy. Inhale, straighten the knee. Moving long into your triangle at the very last moment. The right hand drops. Exhale. Gather your belly. Anchor left leg. One more. Stack spine. Use that back leg to pull you up. And then exhale. Bend the knee. Warrior two. This time, inhale. Exalt. Exhale, straight leg, hinge hip, Trikonasana. Take your time. Inhale, stack spine. Exhale, neutral. Subtle turn out of the feet. Notice the two sides. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, sit down. High squat, Malasana. Goddess pose. Both feet working but feeling very different from one another after that open pelvis work. Straighten the legs, reach up. Hands come down, right toes pivot to point in. Left toes pivot to point toward the end of your mat. Then heart starts to twist toward the edge of the mat. The pelvis does not have to open fully. We want that left knee to remain in alignment with the center of your ankle. So use your eyes. Align the hip, the knee, and the ankle. Then let the toes go off even farther toward that far edge of your mat, the left edge of your mat, if that feels appropriate. Pull the ribs back in line over your pelvis and think about your right thigh and hip pressing underneath you toward your left hip. Activate both big toe mounds and then pinky edge sides of the foot to the outer heel. Feel how that connects to the outer hips. Hands on thighs, they lift up, shoulder height. Look forward over left hand. Be here. Keep those ribs pulling back over the right hip. Don't let them shift forward. Stephanie, pull back just a little bit more. Ribs. Inhale deep. Exhale, bend left knee. Weight goes into the heel here. Using right thigh to press underneath you. Inhale, push with the left big toe, straighten the leg. Nothing else changes. Exhale, bend. Let the heel be heavy. Then press through the ball of the foot to straighten. One more. Bend the heel, warrior two. Bend the knee, heel heavy, warrior two. There we go. Think about those right hips pulling back over right ribs, pulling over right hip. Drop the right hand, turn the palm up. Left palm up. Drop the left hip crease slightly as you lift up through left side waist. Be soft in the base of the neck and base of the skull. The shoulder working, the ribs working, the side waist. Using back thigh to push underneath you. Left knee directly over the ankle. Be there. Come back, warrior two. Arms level. Straighten the leg. Begin to hinge in the left hip, but don't just let go of the right hip. Keep that right thigh pressing forward toward the left hip, even as left sitting bone hugs underneath you. Reach long through left armpit and arm. That's out over your left ankle while right hand and then reaches back over your right ankle. Find that tension between the two. In the heart, in the belly, but not in the neck. Let the neck go. Notice the distinct challenge to your balance here. Press through the big toe, outer heel, Hug the inner hips. Then pull the heels toward the midline. Feel the activation. Whoa. Let the left hand drop down. It's heavy. And then right hand, taking aim from the center of your heart, directly in line with your collarbones. It doesn't go straight up unless your collarbones point straight up. Change your gaze, challenge the balance. Think about left sitting bone hugging underneath you. Right thigh bone pressing toward left thigh bone. Pardon me, cramp. When you're ready, stack the heart. Use your back leg. Back leg presses forward to stack the heart up. Exhale, bend the knee, warrior two. Inhale, reach up, exalting the warrior. And then in one exhale, straighten the left leg and lengthen out to Trikonasana triangle, dropping the left hand, opening the heart. Inhale, stacking. Exhale, bend the knee, warrior two. Inhale, exalt. Long left side, exhale, Trikonasana. Inhale, stack. Let's do one more like this. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, exalt. Exhale, triangle. Beautiful. Inhale, stack spine. Exhale, neutral. Shake it out, feel your feet. Find that 35-degree turnout. It's not huge. Inhale, reach up. Weight back into the heels. Exhale, high squat, Malasana, goddess pose. Hips are back. Tail is lifted, belly gathered. Find your breath. Sit lower. Sit lower. It might be a millimeter. It might be imaginary. One more. Hands come down to your thighs. I like thumbs to point to the earth instead of fingers on the inside. Lift through the tail. Don't lock out the elbows completely, but they come close. Elbows are straight. Shrug the shoulders, let the ribs drop down and the head. Then let the hips drop. The knees get a little wider. The tension of this framework works like tent poles. So your leg muscles don't have to hold you up as much. Allow your pelvis and thighs to be cradled, held in that space between the knees like a hammock. The head go and look from one foot to the other. Keep the weight way back, yogis. Inhale, lift the ribs slightly, lengthen through the crown. Exhale, gentle twist in the heart to the right. Pushing through that left hand, looking over right shoulder, but try not to move the navel too much. Let this be a heart twist. Inhale, come through center. Exhale, push through the right hand. Spiral the heart to the left. Keep the weight back and the hips heavy. Navel firm and stable. And then inhale, come through center. Exhale, push left hand, twisting to the right. Feel your side waist and back ribs. Inhale, center. Exhale, hips heavy, twist left. One more each side. Come through center. Turn the heels parallel. Straighten the legs. Fold forward. Let your weight shift forward into the ball of the foot. Heels light. Hinge in the hip before releasing the spine to gravity. Knees are softened into a subtle bend. Belly gathered deeply so the spine can surrender even more. Maybe you sigh out loud. Look to the side that would be the front of your mat. Come around to it and find all fours. Untuck the toes, roll out the ankles. Let your knees be ever so slightly wider than hips width. Hands wider than your armpits. So we're not in a deep straddle by any means. We're just an inch or so wider than hips width. And then imagine that your head is the head of a snake. And make a side to side serpentine action. And let the ribs follow, and the low back, and eventually the tail. And let the hips kind of be along for the ride on the thigh bones. Then come to center and pause. Now we're going to reverse this. Imagine that your tail is the head of the snake. And it has to guide the movement, being active in its side to side. And then let the ribs follow and the head be the very tail of the snake that's just kind of along for the ride. And see if you can give up the control of your head quite so much. Imagine letting it go with the flow completely. Elbows can soften to accommodate all of this. Notice your pelvis and whether it wants to make big movements or tiny ones, and how those move through your ribs and spine in different ways. You might find that one direction feels more fluid than the other. Just notice. And then when you're ready, sit the hips back onto the heels, knees stay slightly wide, arms long, forehead down. Balasana, child's pose. Take your hands back. Shrugging the shoulders, hinging deep in the hips. Your tail is very heavy, but also pulling back as if it could land somewhere beyond your toes. Feel that lengthening through your entire spine. Coming up. Hands under shoulders. Finding your strap. Maybe it's in a loop. Maybe it's just a towel. Just make sure it's right within reach. Blocks can always be also be handy here. They're not totally necessary. Fingertips may be plenty. But if you have blocks, go ahead and come up on them. You're going to take your left foot forward into a lunge. And for this lunge, align yourself pretty precisely. We don't want to be super stretched out here. So with my right hip directly over my right knee, my left heel is going to be directly under, left heel directly under left knee. So I've got two pretty 90-degree angles there. From here, coming up on my fingertips or up on blocks, I'm going to pull the pelvis forward, bending left knee pretty deep. Now notice that one hip may want to move a little faster than the other. Can you keep your pelvis really level? Can you anchor your right knee through your blanket and pull it forward underneath you? Even just that tiny bit of effort makes a huge difference. Gather in your belly. Soften your jaw. Inhale, come back to that neutral place. Exhale, hand can come back to your ankle. If it doesn't reach, this is where you lasso it with a strap. Because as we come forward, we're bringing the ankle with us. If you can reach your ankle, take it with you. Really kind of narrow lunge here. Inhale, hip comes back toward the heel. Exhale, hips come forward. Again, balanced pelvis. Don't move one hip faster than the other. Activate your right foot slightly. It doesn't have to be in a hard 90 degrees, but give it a little life. Inhale, sitting back toward the heel. And then exhale, shifting forward. As you come back this next time, try to take the heel with you if it serves you. Not all of us will have access to this, and that is totally fine. Be where you're at. It's not about how deep or far. It's about exploration. It's about curiosity. It's about wondering. Move the whole thing. Inhale, hip and heel back. Exhale, hip and heel forward. Inhale, back. Exhale, forward. Release the foot or the strap. Sit back, neutral lunge. Take the left knee back. Swim the hips left and right. When you're ready, stepping the right foot into that lunge. Again, making sure that the hips are above, well, the left hip is above the left knee. So that femur is directly upright. Don't let that front knee be in a big bend. Move the heel so it's directly under the knee and the left knee directly under the hip. And then from here, on fingertips, blocks, stacks of books, whatever you've got, maybe those front toes turning out slightly. Shift both hips forward. From here, pulling the left knee forward slightly, activating those hip flexors on the front of the left hip. Gathering in the belly. We're not just dropping in gravity. We're activating resistance even within the stretch. You're ready. Inhale, hip comes back. And then exhale, moving fluidly forward. Inhale back. Actively resisting the stretch even as we move the pelvis forward. Heel and knee pulling toward that midline underneath you. Inhale, pull back. This time, we use our left hand to either wrap the strap around our ankle and lift it up, holding the strap pretty close to the foot, or if you can reach, hand around the ankle itself and coming up. Squaring the hips, squaring the heart. Inhale here. Leave the heel wherever it is, and then exhale into the lunge. Don't just let the belly go. Gather the ribs, supportive. Inhale, hips back toward heel. Exhale, finding our balance. Not easy. Inhale, hips back. Notice you have to hinge and kind of lean your heart forward a bit. And then exhale, hips come under the heart. Again, hips back, inhale. And hips forward. We're gonna change it up a little. Hips come back to meet the heel. Now pull the heel with you slightly. If it will go. Inhale, both come back. Exhale, pulling the heel with you. Inhale back. Exhale. Kind of feel like I'm working an old-fashioned water pump here. Inhale, back, and then exhale, forward. Pause there, breathing. Release the foot slowly. Then come into the neutral, hip over knee. Right knee comes back. And then side to side, release. Move your blocks out of the way and come onto your belly. Or head to the earth, hands by your hips. Shake out your booty, let the front body get long on the mat. Lift the tail slightly so you feel your low back engage, and then gather your navel deeply, hugging the organs toward that spine. And then bend the knees. Toes activate. Push the thighs into the earth and your pelvis will get a little more light. Roll the shoulders back toward the back of the heart. Push the hands onto the floor. Backs of the hands press down. Collarbones get broad. Pull the sternum toward your chin as the back of the neck lifts up slightly. We don't want to clench the glutes here, so push the knees down slightly. Shoulder blades rising like wings. Hands pressing down for just a tiny bit of leverage. Knees heavy so that the glutes don't clench. Look left and right if the neck gets fatigued. Forehead down. Legs down. Hands out in front of you. Palms together. Wrapping shoulder blades around your armpits, elbows toward the midline, big toes touch, long prostration. Bow in. Imagine yourself to be the coal, that smoldering fire, waiting to take action instead of go out. Lifting the head. Hands come back by your ribs. Press the knees down. Lift the belly up. Pull with the hands, baby cobra. Bend just your right knee. Bend it pretty deep, but move slow. You don't want your hamstring to cramp up on you. Reach your right hand back. If you have to try to lasso it with your strap, do so, or you can turn slightly and reach for it and then come back to center, left hand by your ribs. Begin to kick into your hand, pushing the knee down onto the earth and pulling your sternum forward. Maybe left hand reaches forward and then fingers gripping the earth, pull on that hand to lift the heart higher. Maybe your left leg lifts up into the sky. Keep it long. Think about moving from right at the groin space, that place where the inner thigh, the hamstrings, and the glutes all meet. Can you lift from that place instead of from your low back? Pulling back with your left hand, heart opens. Breath full, don't clench your glutes. Kick into your right hand slightly. Bending left arm underneath forehead, pull the right heel toward the hip. Use your muscle. Feel your arm work. Feel your thigh release. Push your left thigh into the ground. Push your right thigh into the ground. Lift your belly. Pull the heart forward toward your forearm. Maybe that left elbow slides underneath your shoulder and your heart comes up onto it. A little kickstand. Your elbow's pointing toward the sky and your heel is really close to your hip. You might stay here using the muscle of your arm, or you might let the hand come onto the top of the foot. So the heel of the hand is on the tops of the toes, fingers pointing toward your knee. If this feels easily accessible and you want the next step, turn your thumb toward your heart and then fingers come over the tips of the toes and press the heel gently outside the hip. Heart is pulling forward, don't just jam into the mid-ribs. Belly lifted. Release the foot wherever you're at. Long prostration, big toes touch, hands together, wrapping the armpits with your shoulder blades, forehead down. Lifting the head. Hands down by your ribs. Bend the left knee. Pull the heart forward, baby cobra. Send your left hand back, with or without your strap. Make adjustments as needed to take the front of left ankle. Activate the foot. If you need to roll onto your side for a moment to do that, be my guest. Pull the heart forward. Kick slightly into left hand. Press down through right thigh more than foot. Glutes are soft. Reach right hand forward. Get long through that armpit. And then activate, pulling back to lift the heart a half an inch further. Gather your belly. Kick into the hand. Maybe your right thigh begins to lift. Again, not working from that upper glute, low back area, but instead where the crease is, where inner thigh, hamstring, and glute meet. Lift from right there, lengthening back behind you, even as your heart pulls forward. Take the right foot down. Bend the right elbow forearm under your forehead. Pull the left heel to the hip, get heavy. Left arm working hard, everything else goes just a little bit slack. You could stay here, lengthening that left thigh, or you could move on. Pulling the heart forward, lifting the head, sliding that right elbow underneath your shoulder, pulling the heart square and long. Heel close to the hip. Your elbow points straight up, maybe the hand slides to the top of the foot, fingers pointing down toward the knee. Elbow points straight up to the sky. Right thigh heavy. If you've got enough slack in your elbow, you may spin around the thumb toward the ribs, fingertips over the tips of the toes, elbow still straight up, press the heel slightly outside the hip. Wherever you're at, releasing the foot, slowly reaching out, palm to palm, long prostration. Take your time. Let your breath be your flow here. Hands back by your ribs. Feet hips width apart. Knees heavy, belly lifts. Pull back your hands so heart moves forward, baby cobra. Long crown. Exhale, push down your knees to lift your hips while the ribs rise. And then slowly slinky side to side, hips all the way back to a prayer pose, short prostration. Hands underneath, shoulders sitting up. All right, this is where yogis get a choice. I think that a fold or a double fold of a blanket makes sense here. Sitting your hips up onto that, perhaps even higher. And the choice is this, we're all gonna do a forward fold, but it's gonna be symmetrical, so both legs will look the same. It won't be like a Janu Shirshasana where they're asymmetrical. You can have a very close inbound angle where the heels are very close to the pelvis, and the heart lifting high and hinging in the hips. You could have a more open bound angle, soles of the feet together, and then hinging in the hips. You could have Upavishta Konasana, the upward facing angle, feet wide and coming into your forward fold. Or you could have Paschimottanasana, legs at hips width, feet active and forward fold. Yogi's choice. Move to the place that feels most organic and honest to you. No matter which shape the legs take, the heart will be long and in line with the navel. The action will be happening at the hip joints, not at the low back. We're dropping the pubic bone straight down toward the earth. We're not pulling on anything with our arms, but we have Hasta Bandha. Our hands are active and our chest is broad so that we're not dropping the shoulder blades and overstretching the neck. We have a long back neck and we have an honest, even breath. Find the shape that suits the body you find yourself in just now. And no matter which shape you take, activate your feet. Pull the toes back toward the knees. Press the balls of the foot out away from the knees. Hug the outer heel toward your pelvis ever so slightly. It doesn't matter what that is in action, just imagine the connection of the back, the Achilles tendon on the back of your heel pulling toward your pelvis. Make that imaginary connection, draw that thread. Imagining those outer thighs drawing toward your tail. Imagining the inner thighs opening away from your pubic bone. We're not trying to get to a particular place. We're allowing our body to be as it is and our breath to move through it. If movement, if change is a part of that equation, we embrace it. We do not strive for it. We do not make assumptions about it, being right or wrong. We do not believe that folding deeper makes us better people or better yogis or more dedicated or devoted. It just makes us honest in our own body, our own parts. Hands come under our shoulders, regardless of what shape we're in. We push down, let the heart get lighter. Then squeeze the glutes, the sitting bones slightly to stack the heart. Neutralize the knees, up, feet coming onto the floor. Pause there. Coming off of your blanket, having whatever props you have, making sure that they're handy within reach as we fall onto our back body for a moment. Letting the spine be supported, but not pressing our low back into the earth. Find a little bit of action in the low back, lumbar spine. Gentle pull of the tail toward the back of the heart. For good measure, let's counteract that forward fold with a tiny bridge pose. Elbows pressed down, shoulders together behind us, slack at the base of the neck as we shrug shoulders slightly. Heels hip width, gather belly, feel the back bend already take shape. Then exhale, lift the whole spine up off the ground. Tail is heavy, thighs are light. Do not lead with the pubic bone. Lead with the heart. The sternum lift toward the ceiling and then lengthen toward the chin. Keep the back neck long without collapsing down into the mat. Just a little bit more with the big toe mound and feel the inner thighs activate. There's no clenching in the glutes, but they're active. Feel them with your hand. Clench them just to know what the difference is. Clench. And then release. Tail heavy. Thighs rise. Heart lengthens. Shoulders shrug. Jaw softens. Drop the tail. Reach the arms overhead. Walk the feet forward 4 inches and then wide, wide, wide. Let the knees drop in. Let your organs soften. Maybe this is static. Maybe you very subtly drop one knee a little further than the other and then switch. We're not, again, trying to get anywhere. We're on an exploration, challenging our assumptions, our patterns, our resistance. We cannot truly take aim if we don't know actually where we're starting from. When you're ready, making use of any props you have, moving yourself toward your Shavasana shape, your corpse pose. You may support yourself with blankets or bolsters. You may support yourself with blocks. You may cover yourself or use weights. What shape you take today is your own. Perhaps you are traditionally flat on the floor, receptive of the earth beneath and the expanse above and around. Regardless of the shape you're in, make sure that you feel secure enough to truly surrender. Surrender not just into your shape, but through your shape into the earth. Through your props into gravity. Let the pace of that surrender pull your cells apart, your molecules, and drop down through the molecules of earth to the spaces between. Allow your breath to soften and also surrender into its most organic, unguided rhythm. And as I light this sage here in my own space, allow its smoke to move through your space, around your cells and between your molecules, cleansing, clearing, releasing any attachment to that which has been. as I light this Palo Santo here in my space. Allow its smoke to move through your space, in between your molecules. That fresh, new, exposed tissue might feel fragile, tender, but you can trust its resilience, its strength, its capacity to move you into and through this world. As you're ready, let your breath come into focus once more. Move it between your molecules and your cells, this time drawing them back together, rising up through the surface of the earth, reconnecting, leaving behind the old, useless, coming back fresh and revived, smoldering coals ready to be offered new fuel. Finding the seat of your choice, move slowly, one body part at a time. Do not go to a prescribed place, but a place that feels right. Not that you think about, but that calls to you. Turn your palms up. Into your palms, please accept the light of my gratitude. Gratitude for your breath, your effort, your curiosity. Gratitude for your hearts. Gratitude for your challenges. Gratitude for opening up into this world that asks of us a little bit more awareness, a little bit more discomfort, a little bit more questioning, a little bit more calling out. Take this gratitude into the palm of your hand, wrap your fingers around it, feel like a marble there in your palm, squeeze it. And soak it up through the channels of your arms and into the center of your heart. Let it merge with that eternal light at your heart center, the unwavering, the unchallenged. The very heart of that light, its most center point is a thread. And you can pluck that thread and it will sing a song. That vibration will move from you, through you, into the world. That is a song of clarity, of compassion, of grace. That song, that vibration, it is not just yours, it is ours, all of us. It really is the same song. Bind your palms together at that heart space. Bow in to that thread surrounded in light. Allow the vibration, the waves, the particles to move from your center outward. Emanate. Share. From my heart to your hearts, my song through your song. Namaste. Thank you, yogis. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here, sharing that time, this time, our time, coming together, activating. Let's keep singing. Let's keep plucking our heart threads. Let us emanate the sun, the action, the compassion. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me by my contact form at yogaengineer.com. If you'd like to donate, you can use my Venmo at Rochelle-Ricard. Share this with your friends. There's links to the live classes at yogaengineer.com/yoga/weekly classes. And then many recordings posted as well under resources and yoga videos. Thank you so much. Until next time.